What is up, everybody? My name is Jerichoholic8704, and I am here to give you the review of the second episode of WWE ECW. And I figured, after the horrendous episode 1, it can only go up from here. And I was wrong. I was horribly wrong. Actually, I don't know if I was wrong, because the main event of the show was actually an okay, it was a pretty good match. But everything else on this show just made me want to die. It was just the pits, dude. You know what I mean? So, opening up, we get a picture of Ariel. Ariel, Shelly Martinez, the girl that was with Kevin Thorne. So she's in this really lewd corset, and her boobs are just flat out right in front of the camera. So we know ECW's main draw right out from the get-go. And she's basically she's dealing all these different cards, because she's a voodoo witch or whatever her gimmick was. I can't remember. She was part vampire, wasn't she? Because she was with Kevin Thorne, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, she goes over, she recaps ECW's invasion of Raw on the previous night, and then she announces that the main event will be RVD and Kurt Angle versus Edge and Randy Orton. So they do their little introduction. They're live from Albany, New York, and then we had Tony Mamaluke versus Sabu. And Tony Mamaluke, a member of the Full-Blooded Italians, came out with this woman, and this woman's name was Trinity. And this is where Taz noted that, Raw and SmackDown, they have divas. But in here, ECW, we have Vixens. So apparently on ECW, the women were known as Vixens. I don't remember that detail ever being a thing. I doubt it was in the original ECW. I think it was just a little branding thing that Vince McMahon wanted to throw in there. So this was a very basic match. They know that in ECW, anything goes. So basically in any match on ECW, you can use weapons. But they used weapons very modestly. It was very conservative, the amount of weapons used. This is the most extreme we got for the entire night. Sabu hit some, crazy springboard. He hit a slingshot leg drop and everything. And he set up a table, and he did a springboard elbow onto the table, and then he threw Mamaluke back into the ring and hit a springboard leg drop. Mamaluke got hardly any offense. I would say maybe he got 15 to 20% of the offense in this match. It was basically just a match to make Sabu look strong. He beat Tony Mamaluke in relatively quick fashion. It was probably maybe 6 or 7 minutes long at the most. And see, Sabu is facing Cena at Vengeance, which is this was the go-home show, if you will, to Vengeance. And the only ECW matches I believe that were on the show were it was Sabu and John Cena, and RVD as the WWE and ECW champion defended the title against Edge in the main event. Actually, no, it wasn't the main event, because the main event to that pay-per-view was Triple H and Shawn Michaels versus Spirit Squad. Aside from that, this is just, again, basically a match to help Sabu, raise his stock a little bit with John Cena. So, no complaints here. It was an okay match. It was just, kind of dull, and it really wasn't extreme for the extreme standards. But then again, you're on the Sci-Fi Network. How extreme can you really get? So then we had a backstage segment with Kelly. She still is not Kelly yet. She's just Kelly. And she has probably one of the worst backstage segments of all time. It was just as bad as it was last week. And she's clearly reading stuff off a cue card off camera. She has zero charisma. She can't speak a word. And she opens up by saying, "Last week, I forgot to take my bra off." And this honestly pissed me off so much, because I ranted and raved last week about how much I hated every single part of Kelly's expose and how stupid it was and how it's so useless, and they could have done so many better things with Kelly than have her be, this exhibitionist. But she said, "I forgot to take my bra off." And I'm like, listen, your one job is to be an exhibitionist, and you even fucked that up. You know what I mean? Kelly has come across as just the biggest numbskull, the biggest airhead, the biggest goofball on this entire show. And the thing I love about this, what I love, and I thought about it for a bit. I actually had to pause, the stream and just think about this, because Kelly is a quote unquote exhibitionist, and all she does is just come out to this generic softcore porn music and strip. She's essentially a stripper. But I love how WWE is so, they're so progressive, and they love their women so much, they're going to refer to her as an exhibitionist. Well, thank God. At least WWE had the class to say, oh, she's not a stripper, she's an exhibitionist. Now go out there, 19-year-old Kelly, and, get pretty much almost completely naked in front of a crowd of, 10,000 people on the Sci-Fi Network. You know what I mean? I love how WWE just acts like they're so high and mighty. And it's you look at this stuff and you're like, God damn, the women's revolution, even now I still find problems with how they're booking the women. But now that you have the Mae Young Classic, you have, legitimate contenders for the championships, you have legitimate champions, you have people that are actually over to a degree. I mean, they can kill you in an instant. Bailey was over and then they killed her. But you know what I mean? Like, God, you've come such a long way. I don't want to rant about Kelly's expose every single review that I do, but this is going to be my second rant on Kelly. So that was just horrible stuff. So then Kelly goes into the commercial break, and then we come back, and then RVD has an inset promo. He basically just promotes his match with Edge and Vengeance, and he promises to beat him. So then we had Big Show come out, and, you can tell this wasn't a match because, the announcer would be like, ladies and gentlemen, the following contest, and they didn't do that. It was Justin Roberts who was the announcer, for those of you who wonder. He just said, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Big Show. And then Big Show's just in the ring for a second, and then Tommy Dreamer's music hits, and he comes out. And Dreamer tells Show that if he wants to make a name for himself on ECW, he has to go through him. Dreamer slaps him, and then Big Show just destroys him. He just boots him, and then he just beats the hell out of him. I shouldn't say he, destroys him. He really kind of just beat him up a little bit. This is anything you could see on any WWE program. And, he threw him into the guardrail a bit. I think he hit him with a chair, maybe. I can't remember exactly what he did. Point is, it wasn't anything death-defying or anything that made me go, oh my God. And Taz said, oh, this is ECW. It's totally graphic. That was the word he used, graphic. So they go to commercial break. I don't know what this accomplished. I mean, Big Show, I guess, is more over. I mean, he wasn't over when I guess they wanted to make Big Show dominant, but really, he was dominant when he eliminated almost every single person in that Battle Royal last week. He just beat up a, 45-year-old Tommy Dreamer, however old he was at this time. He looked 45. But, I guess that's just how they want to book Big Show. So this went in the commercial break, and this is when the show was just like, I was ready for it to end, but we're only halfway through. Kevin Thorne is hanging outside the Pepsi Arena. They come back from, they're like, we're alive in Albany, New York. Well, actually, they didn't get to that first. Actually, it was just Kevin Thorne going into the camera. I'm sure that was a pleasant sound for all of you. But yeah, so, I guess that's something to look forward to. And then we had Macho Libre come out. It was just basically some fat guy in a lucha mask and lucha tights and everything. And it was around 2006, so that means the blockbuster Emmy award-winning comedy Nacho Libre, starring Jack Black, was out at this time. And I've actually seen Nacho Libre, and I really wasn't all that impressed with it. Then again, I saw it when it came out in 2006, so I was, 9 years old? So again, I guess this really wasn't I wasn't the best film critic at the age of 9, but I still remember it not being all that funny. So, but I kind of think that speaks volumes, though, because kids, you can entertain them with pretty much anything. And if a kid finds a movie to be dull, it's probably dull. You know what? I'm going to go on Rotten Tomatoes right now and just look up the, I want to look up the percentage on the tomato meter that Nacho Libre has. I mean, it was just another Jack Black movie. I mean, Jack Black is not a bad actor, and I think he has some great moments. And I mean, I love School of Rock. That's a great movie. Nacho Libre has a 40%. If you ask me, that's a little too high. I guess Taz is using some telepathy here, because I swear to you, I thought, this dude has a worse body than Jack Black, and that's saying something. And Taz said the exact same thing on commentary, and I almost fell out of my chair. That was good stuff. So Macho Libre is basically a cross between just the generic luchador, not El Generico, but the generic luchador, and Randy Savage. So he's trying to do his Macho Man voice, and it's just fucking terrible. And then eventually Sandman comes out. He, smashes his head in with some beer cans. He canes them. He hits the Russian leg sweep. Bada boom, bada bing. He's done. So then we had a backstage segment, and this is what almost made me rip my hair out. We had a backstage segment with Heyman, and Heyman is surrounded by a bunch of ECW guys, all the generic ECW dudes, and Sabu's right there next to him. And he said, John Cena's apparently coming out here tonight, so I want everyone to be on their guard. Cena just walks in the door. He literally, they hear a door open, they hear it close, and then the camera pans over, and it's John Cena. Security guards are terrible. Now, I don't know if they banned John Cena from the building, if John Cena was trying to get past security guards, but if he was, all Cena had to do was just walk a little bit, because that's all he did. He just opened the door. I don't know how any person can just walk into an arena. I don't really know how that works. But that's what John Cena did. So then Cena comes over. He's in enemy territory. He's surrounded by everyone who wants to beat his ass. And he says, look, I'll take you on, Sabu. I don't care. Bring everyone here. Bring everyone. It'll be an extreme lumberjack match. And Paul Heyman, he's distressed. And Sabu says, you know what? You're on. Now, here's the thing. I guess on WWE programming, the idea is ECW guys are the heels and vice versa. However, on this show, John Cena came across as the ultimate babyface, and in a good way. You know, like not like a generic like smiley baby kissing babyface. He came across as the toughest guy in the entire world. He invaded the enemy territory, and he said, "Fuck all of you. I'll beat all of your asses, and I'll beat you especially at Vengeance." And you know what happened at Vengeance? He beat Sabu in like what, 7 minutes? So I can't remember the match if there was any screwy finish, but from what I remember, I thought Cena just beat him. I thought he made him tap out in like 7 minutes. It made every ECW guy and Heyman and Sabu, it made them all look like total chumps because Cena was just, he didn't care. He just came in and challenged everyone, and that was it. That's all he had to do. And it was just infuriating because it's like you want to try to get these guys over. You want ECW to seem like big stars. You want them to be like this alternative, but they look like such doofuses compared to the WWE guys. Edge and Orton came across as two of the biggest stars on this entire show, and Cena came across as the toughest guy in the world. It was absolutely maddening. So then we had Kelly's expose. She got a little further than last time. She actually unhooked her bra this time, and her hands were like over her boobs and everything like that. Eventually, Mike Knox comes out and he covers her with a towel. He got thunderous boos. Again, when I was 9 years old, I wanted to fucking kill Mike Knox. And then a guy in the crowd was very upset, and he's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Let her finish!" So he was having a really bad day. And then we had a video promo for Test. Yeah. Alright, so then we had Edge and Randy Orton versus RVD and Kurt Angle. Edge basically gets on the mic before the match and basically tells everyone that they suck, and then the match starts, and honestly, this was your generic tag team match. They got the heat on RVD for a bit. Edge and Orton tagged in and out, and then they got the hot tag into Angle, and Angle was running wild. He was hitting the suplexes and the Germans and the angle slams and everything. He went to go give Edge the angle slam, and Orton hit a chop block, and they started working over Angle's knee. So they worked on Angle for a bit. So it was basically the tag team formula, except they added a second heat segment, which on a show that's all about extreme wrestling and in-your-face action, I don't know if a second heat segment is really a good idea, but to each his own. It was still an okay. Like, the match was fine, and honestly, I think I'm grading it a little bit on a curve here because when you're on WWE ECW TV, anything that's passable is like a fucking classic. You know what I mean? So everything kind of breaks down, and then RVD, he has the chair, he's smacking Orton with it. Angle goes for the ankle lock on Edge, and Lita breaks it up. Lita was all over this match. She kept on interfering. She would low bridge, RVD and Angle when they would, bounce off the ropes and everything. So Lita breaks up the ankle lock, and then Kurt Angle grabs her, and she gets angle slammed to a massive pop. You're always going to get a massive pop when you hit a move on Lita, just especially during that time. Orton comes in with the RKO and hits Angle with it. RVD hits Orton with the one-legged missile dropkick, and then RVD goes for the Rolling Thunder, and Edge dropkicks him, which was the best moment of the night. Even Taz had to say, like, dude, that was fucking awesome. Edge goes for the spear, but RVD hits Edge with the belt, and then RVD hits the frog splash for the win. So Angle and RVD celebrate, and unfortunately, I think Angle also lost his match to Orton. So ECW, technically, that was a match for ECW too. I forgot to include that when I went over the Vengeance card. So RVD was the only one who saved ECW's reputation. But other than that, this was a fine main event. It was passable. It was a good match. But everything else on the show was terrible, and I can't wait to do episode 3 where I'll get even more angry. But until then, my name is Jerichoholic8704, and I will see all of you guys later.